I don't want to see a world where people are struggling and stepping all over each other. And we can do it. We can provide health care to all of our people. We can create decent paying jobs. We can reverse climate change and transform our energy system. We can raise wages. We can make sure that every person in this country gets the education they need and desire. This is not some type of utopian dream. It can happen. It really can. But it will not happen unless we stand up and fight back for not only ourselves, but for our kids and future generations. Let's do it.
I've heard a little bit about some of our candidates and individuals talking about their parents. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that my mother and father, I'm basically here because I'm following what they modeled for me. And that is that you help everybody that you can. And my father, some of you may know, maybe not, that he was the Auditor General for Governor Soapy Williams. Yes. I've got pictures of my brothers and I in our green and white polka dotted bow ties. I will put it up on Facebook for you, all right? You're gonna have to go to my Facebook page. So I do want to share one quick Governor Williams story that I'll bet nobody in this room knows. So as the Auditor General, my father's names were on all the checks. And my father would campaign side by side with Governor Williams. And they would go somewhere and constituents would say, "Oh, Governor Williams, you're the governor that built the Mackinac Bridge." And my dad would say, "Yes, and I paid for it."
And up next, we have a candidate for Congress in Michigan's 10th District. It's Ben Knopf. He's been endorsed by Real Progressives, so we already know Ben. Ben's real familiar to our members. Ben, hi, how you doing this morning?
Good, how you doing here?
It's great to see you.
You too.
Ben, how does it feel to be endorsed by Real Progressives?
Absolutely amazing. I've been a member of Real Progressives for some time now. With the Bernie campaign, I joined the Real Progressives Facebook page, been following their posts, and to be endorsed by the group was just amazing. I'm glad to have my name get out there on a national level. Being a candidate for Congress is not just a local issue, but also national issues I'm talking about, with the renewable energy, with marriage equality, with legalization of marijuana and decriminalization of marijuana and cannabis, and saving our waters and climate change also are a lot of the big issues, pushing for the fight for $15 an hour. Those are all national issues that I am definitely pushing during my campaign, and so being a candidate for Congress and being endorsed by Real Progressives is an awesome opportunity.
That's fantastic, Ben. Ben, can you tell me a little bit about what's the biggest challenge for you as a candidate in getting your message out to the people?
I'm running up against a multi-millionaire. He spent $2.3 million in the primaries. In order to get my message out, I have to somehow combat the millions of dollars that he's going to be spending during the campaign season. So being able to get out online through Real Progressives and other networks is definitely going to help my message get out there. I was just on the front page of the local paper. That helped get my message out there. So more and more media outlets that are able to get my message out there to the people will definitely help me overcome the multi-million dollars that one of my opponents is putting up.
Ben, that's great stuff. And can you tell us a little bit about some upcoming appearances that you have for the campaign here in Michigan?
I'm trying to get set up right now an event in Marine City for the Heritage Days. That's coming up on I believe the 17th and 18th of September. Right now I've got one band and a sound system set up for a Rock the Boat to come up at the end of September. Still trying to look for a couple other bands if anyone's interested in coming out on a volunteer basis. We're going to try and get a Rock the Boat in Port Huron, and I'm also going to be out canvassing. I'll be out at different events talking to people, and so you can check out my Facebook page or website for event opportunities coming up. Once I get them scheduled, they'll be up there as well.
Fantastic. Ben, thanks a lot for being us. We'll check in with you a little later in the round.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
In the spotlight tonight, crime and the correct punishment. For over a decade, the United States has maintained the highest incarceration rate in the world. 41% of American prisoners have not completed high school or its equivalent, compared to 18% of the general population. Prisoners who do not have a high school diploma or a GED are more likely to be repeat offenders. In Michigan, one judge is trying to change that. Wayne County Circuit Judge Deborah Thomas sentences offenders who have not completed high school to get their diploma, in addition to other more traditional rehabilitation programs. Presiding over her courtroom in Detroit, Judge Thomas sits in front of the diplomas and GED certificates of the young men and women she has helped to achieve a better education. Joining me now from Detroit is Judge Deborah Thomas. Judge, thank you very much for doing this tonight. I was fascinated to read about how you're handling this in your courtroom. And in what I read about you today, I guess this came to you partially because you had worked as a teacher before becoming a judge.
That's true. I used to teach with the Detroit public school system. And education is the key to success.
And when you were working in the school system, did you see this as a problem then, that with juveniles who are getting in trouble, that if the judges could just realize that what they really needed more than anything else was that high school diploma?
Motivation for the young people would be the larger problem. Getting them to understand the importance of getting an education, of finishing high school, of getting job training beyond high school. Motivating the young individuals was the bigger issue, oftentimes.
One thing I was struck by in reading about your method and how you do this is that you seem to, in the courtroom, motivate some of these defendants who come in front of you, and they make declarations to you about promising that they'll be back and that they will be up on your wall with their GED or their diploma.
Many young people will come before me, and instead of looking at me while I'm talking, they're looking behind me. They're looking at the wall. They're seeing high school diplomas, GEDs from other individuals. And they'll say to me, I'm going to get mine up there, Judge. I promise. I'm going to have mine up there. And they come back. I make them bring the original, and I make a copy, and we stop what we're doing. And when I take the certificate and tape it to the wall, everyone in the courtroom gives them a round of applause. And then I have them, and some who will promise me that they're going to come back when they get junior college. I have a couple of working on their bachelor's degrees. I have one young person who was certified as a mechanic to repair airplanes. So it gives them a measure of success, and they get rewarded, recognized for that success.
And you mentioned in one article that a lot of these are kids who never had their homework assignment or their test paper with the star on it taped to the refrigerator at home. And this is that kind of refrigerator moment for them.
It really is. There are a lot of young people who are not encouraged. They may come from a family where for generations no one graduated from high school. There were employment opportunities 20, 30, 40 years ago where the high school diploma wasn't as critical. And so no one posted a picture of their work. No one ever patted them on the back. I had one young man, he brought me his grades to show he had completed the program. I says, where's the GED? He says, my mother lost it.
The Honorable Deborah Thomas, thank you very much for your service as a teacher and your service now on the bench. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Judge.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up.
So is it okay for me to say something yet?
Absolutely.
Because I have to say, my name is Rachel. I know many of you consider you colleagues. So Mark meets with a lot of people in his public life, and sometimes it's frustrating. And I have to say that for as long as we've lived in Michigan, he has come home elevated, inspired, and hopeful for the future from every meeting he's ever had with Ish. I knew your name like 10 years ago or more, and it brought like a light to his public work. And so when Lori asked us about doing this event, I just knew that there was no question, right? That he firmly, fundamentally believes in you and your work. And so I don't have nearly as much firsthand experience, but as a spouse, I see a lot of like, you know, come home and absorb the energy from being involved in public life, let's just say. And we couldn't be more thrilled about the possibility of you serving in our state board of ed.
28 Michigan residents will be honored by the Michigan Community Service Commission in receiving the 2016 Governor's Service Awards. The awards are selected from across the state, from individuals, businesses, and nonprofits for their commitment to volunteer service. One of this year's winners is Port Huron City Councilman Alfonso Amos. Amos recently stepped out to form Impact Youth Services, a nonprofit that works with at-risk and high-risk youth, teaching kids about their true potential and providing mentorship and guidance. He volunteers his time with young men and women to help them build a bright future for themselves. Alfonso is the recipient of this year's Mentor of the Year award and will be honored at a ceremony in Saginaw, Michigan on August 30th. For EBW TV News, I'm Claire Sikori.
I find it ironic that it is the taxpayers of this country who are going to have to bail out banks that have made billions and billions of dollars investing in Asia. Is it morally right that CEOs of large corporations now make over 500 times what their workers make and seem to make more money to the degree that they lay off American workers? Walmart has replaced General Motors as the major employer in America, paying people starvation wages rather than living wages. We can fight terrorism, protect the American people without undermining the basic constitutional rights which make us a free country. They understand that our trade policies are failing when they note that our trade deficit is huge and growing larger every single year. And it seems to me, Madam President, that before we go forward again in pursuit of a failing trade agenda, we might want to sit back, take a moratorium, understand why our trade policies are failing, and then put together trade agreements that work for the working people and the middle class of this country rather than just the CEOs of large multinational corporations. The wealthiest 1/10 of 1%, 1/10 of 1%, 300,000 men, women, and children now earn more income than do the bottom 150 million Americans. No matter how many children live in poverty, no matter how high the unemployment numbers are, they want more and more and more. And I say enough is enough. And you want to know why the American people are cynical about what goes on in Washington? You want to know why the Congress of the United States has an extremely low level of support or favorability? It is because the American people know they are getting ripped off. You got millions of people today who are working longer hours and their income is going down. Their wages are going down. This grotesque level of inequality is immoral. It is bad economics. It is unsustainable. This type of rigged economy is not what America is supposed to be about. This has got to change. And as your president, together, we are going to change it. When we stand together, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. And I pledge to you that every day I will fight for the public interest, not the corporate interest. I will not abandon any segment of American society, whether you're gay or black or Latino, poor or working class, just because it is politically expedient at a given time. So let us go forward together and let us tell the Republicans that their reactionary agenda may work for the billionaires, but not for ordinary Americans, and we are going to defeat them. Thank you all very much.